Stanley swept into the sea with a splash and a splish. Perhaps he's one of us, thought the other jellyfish. But his stripes were too straight and his tentacles too few. He just floated in the sea, not sure what to do. You see, Stanley was no ordinary jellyfish. Then something terrible happened. Somebody swallowed Stanley. But who could it be? Her tongue was as rough as barnacles, her mouth as vast as a cave. As she hummed her low song, Stanley tried to be brave. So who had swallowed Stanley? The creature stopped singing as Stanley slid down her slimy throat. She coughed and she spluttered, and then whoosh! With a rush and a rumble, steam burst from her spout. A whale had swallowed Stanley, but now he was out. Stanley dropped with a splash back into the sea, where he bobbed along gently, calm and carefree. Until something terrible happened. Somebody swallowed Stanley, but who could it be? With a sharp yellow beak and a small beady eye, the creature flapped his wings and rose up to the sky. But who had swallowed Stanley? He pecked and then snapped and he nipped, but Stanley wouldn't go down. More creatures flew over, first 2 and then 3. In all the flapping and squawking, they let Stanley be. A seagull had swallowed Stanley, but now he was free. Poor old Stanley was ripped up, scruffy and torn. He sank and he sank and he sank down some more. But something terrible happened before he reached the sea floor. Somebody swallowed Stanley again, but who could it be? Her paddle-shaped flippers skimmed the seabed. She had a beautiful shell and a small wrinkly head. So who had swallowed Stanley? She gasped and she spluttered, then started to choke too. But Stanley was stuck without much he could do. A turtle had swallowed Stanley. The creature was scared and swam quickly to shore. With Stanley stuck in her throat, she couldn't breathe anymore. The turtle closed her eyes and lay down in the sand. But then Stanley heard footsteps. Help was at hand. A kind boy on the beach came and tugged Stanley free. But then Stanley heard, "Plastic bags don't belong in the ocean blue. Creatures think you're a jellyfish and they swallow you." Now, with a rope and a branch, he'd made something new. What do you think he's going to make? A kite! Flying high in the air, Stanley soared to and fro, safe from the sea and all the creatures below. The first step is to actually take your A4 paper and turn it into squares. Now this can be a little bit tricky, so you might need to get an adult to help you with this. So in order to make a square out of your A4 paper, you have to take one of the corners and you have to fold it so that the top short edge lines up with the long edge. Okay, you don't need to actually press it down because we don't want a triangle. We just want to see where that corner matches up with this side here. So where that corner is, I'm going to get my pencil and I'm just going to draw a little line and I'm going to unfold it. Then I'm going to flip my page and fold along that dot that I just drew. and this bit. So press it down. And then you're going to get your scissors and you're going to cut off that rectangle because we don't need that. Okay, so now that I've cut that off, this bit can just go into the recycling because you don't need it anymore, and you have a square piece of paper. So what you need to do now is, with your 4 pieces of paper, make 4 squares like this. So you're going to pause the video and you're going to come back once you are finished and we'll go on to the next step. Okay? All right, so the next step is you're going to get one of your squares and you have to fold it in half one way. Then you open it back up. And then you take one side and you fold it into the middle fold. Now, because this is plain paper, it's kind of hard to see, but try to line it up perfectly so that there's no bits that are kind of hanging out the edge. So I've done that. Now do the other side. So open it back up and you can do the exact same thing, but going the other way. You should see that you will have 4 rows with 4 squares on each row. Okay, so you're going to do that to all 4 of your squares that you have already cut out. Okay, so pause the video now so that you can make 4 of these. And when you are finished, you can start the video again and we'll go on to the next step. All right, so the next step is you're going to get a pair of scissors and you're going to cut really carefully along the middle. It doesn't matter if you cut on this one or on that one, it's the same. So you're going to cut along the middle here. So you have 2 pieces with 8 squares on each piece. And you're going to do that for all 4 of your pieces. So I'm going to put these together because this is one set. So you're going to pause the video and you're going to do that for all 4 of your pieces. And you can replay the video, restart the video, sorry, when you are finished. All right, so once you have done that to all 4 of your pieces of paper, you will have 4 sets that look like this. Okay, just need 1 set. So you're going to put these 3 sets to the side. And you're just going to have 1 of them in front of you for now. What you're going to do is you're going to kind of put them back together. And then you're going to get your glue stick. And this is where you need to be very patient and also very careful. Okay, get your glue stick and you're going to put glue onto the 4 corners. Once your glue is on the 4 corners, you're going to get your other set. And you're going to really carefully glue this new piece of paper on top of your set that you already have. Now, if you notice, their split is going up and down. It's going vertically. So when we glue the new set, the split has to be horizontal. So we're going to glue it that way. Now I'm going to really carefully line up the corner of my new piece of paper along with the corner that's already on the table. And then I'm going to line up this corner with that one. Then I'm going to do the same thing for this one. And then the same thing for this corner. Okay, so now you can see that the split is going across. Now this is, the next step is a little bit tricky. So you're going to have to pick it up and then turn it this way and then kind of flip it inside out. And then you press down to make sure that the pages are lined up. Then you're going to press down on the top piece of paper that's kind of going out like that. And you're going to press it down so it's nice and flat. So you're going to flatten it and then flip it this way. Okay, so you want the split to be horizontal again. So as you can see that it's opening up and down ways. Then you're going to put the glue on this corner, this corner, this corner, this corner, and then, oops, over the entire square here. So pretty much the whole surface needs to be covered in glue. Then you're gonna get your other piece of paper, so a new set, and then you're gonna stick it up and like vertically. And make sure you press down neatly and so that all corners are all matched up. Then, so flip it open like that, and then you'll see there's another bit that kind of folds out like that. Now for this one, you're going to put glue on that corner, and that corner, and that corner, and that corner. And then to get your other piece of paper, let's try that. So then flip it, and there's a plain side, and you can rotate it, and then flip it that way. And there's another plain side. As you can see, there's a bit that's kind of sticking out because I probably didn't line up my pages properly. So what I might do is actually trim that off later if I can. Rotate it, flip it. This is probably the neatest page. Rotate it, and then flip it over. So that is the beginning of our never-ending story. All right, so now that we have made our never-ending story, we need to think about what we want to draw onto our opening scene. So this first page of our never-ending story is going to be a picture of how Stanley ended up in the ocean to begin with. So what I want us to do is think about some ideas of how a plastic bag could have ended up in the sea, because plastic bags do not live in the sea. So what I've done is I've just drawn Stanley with a thinking bubble around him. And I'm going to think of 3 different ways that a plastic bag could end up in the ocean. What I want you to do now is to try and think of 3 different ways that Stanley could have ended up in the ocean. If you can't think of anything, don't worry, we will just use one of these ideas when we do our class example for our never-ending story about Stanley. You know, is grab your never-ending story and a pencil, and probably a rubber, because we all make mistakes when we draw. I want to go with the idea for our class example that Stanley was accidentally left at the beach. So my idea is that a family went shopping because they wanted snacks. It was a really, really hot summer's day. They have crisps and dip and drinks and fruit, and they stuff Stanley full of food, and they take him to the beach, and the weather turns and they have to run away really quickly, and they accidentally leave Stanley there. And then a gust of wind comes and then blows him out to sea. So we're not going to draw all of that because that's quite complicated, but what I will like to draw is the scene of the beach with Stanley full of food, so that when we look at our never-ending story, it will remind us of how Stanley got there. So this is my opening scene. Then this is going to remind me how Stanley ended up in the ocean. So what I want you to do now is you're going to draw your own opening scene onto your never-ending story, and then you're going to color it in. All right, good luck, and I hope to see loads of you sending in your pictures of your opening scene for Someone Swallow Stanley. Bye, guys.